A pleasant day to everyone. I am Orao Junjun, and to this video I am going to discuss with you the Gettysburg's address, and let me discuss with you the summary of the speech. So, the Gettysburg's address delivered by President Abraham Lincoln on November 19, 1863 at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, is a concise yet profound speech that reflects on the significance of the American Civil War and the principles of the democracy. In just over 2 minutes, Lincoln eloquently articulates the notions, commitment to the principles of equality, liberty, and democracy, while also honoring the sacrifice of those who fought and died in the Civil War. The speech served as both a eulogy for the fallen soldiers and a call to preserve the Union and uphold the ideals upon which it was founded. So yeah, the author of this address is written and delivered by President Abraham Lincoln. So the literary genre of this is the Gettysburg's Address is a classic example of political speech characterized by its rhetorical precision and emotional resonance. So it was published, during, or it was published by the delivered on November 19, 1863 during the American Civil War. For historical context, the Gettysburg's Address was delivered in the midst of the American Civil War, a conflict that pitted the Union or the northern states against the Confederacy, the southern states, over issues of slavery, states' rights, and the preservation of the Union. So the Battle of Gettysburg, which took place from July 1 to July 3, 1863, was a turning point in the war, resulting in Union victory and the largest number of casualties in any battle of the war. The dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg provided an opportunity for President Lincoln to reflect on the significance of the war and the principles for which the Union soldiers had fought and died. For the context and significance of the speech, the Gettysburg Address holds immense significance in American history as a testament to the enduring principles of the democracy and equality. So in the speech, Lincoln reaffirms the nation's commitment to the ideals of liberty and equality articulated in the Declaration of Independence, proclaiming that the United States is a nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. By framing the Civil War as a struggle of the uphold these principles, Lincoln underscores the moral imperative on preserving the Union and the abolishing slavery. For the literary and rhetorical analysis, the Gettysburg Address is renowned for its rhetorical power and literary elegance. Lincoln employs various rhetorical devices, including parallelism, antithesis, and repetition, to craft a speech that is both rhetorically compelling and emotionally resonant. The use of parallel structure in phrases such as government of the people, by the people, for the people, emphasizes the democratic principles upon which the nation was founded and reinforced the unity of purpose among the American people. So additionally, Lincoln's use of antitheses such as the brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have concentrated it far above our poor power to add or distract. So this is a sacrifice of soldiers where the limitations of living, highlighting the magnitude of their contribution to the nation. Overall, the Gettysburg Address stands as a timeless testament to the resilience of democracy and enduring legacy of those who have sacrificed their lives in its defense. So Lincoln's eloquent and impassioned words continue to inspire generations of Americans to uphold the principles of liberty, equality, and democracy for which so many have fought and died. Later in American literature, known as an overview, transcendentalism 1820s to 1860s emerged in the response of changing societal and intellectual landscape of early 19th century America. So influenced by European Romanticism and Eastern religious philosophies, transcendentalists emphasize the importance of institution, individualism, and a deep connection to nature. So Ralph Waldo Emerson, a leading figure of the movement, encouraged people to trust their inner voice and seek a spiritual truth through personal experience rather than conforming to a societal norms. So Henry David Thoreau, another prominent transcendentalist, put these ideals into practice with his experiment in simple living at Walden Pond, which is chronicle in this world a wooden transcendentalist. So it's a literature often celebrated and the wonder of the natural world, while also critiquing the materialism and conformity of society. Now let's proceed to the American Republic in 1776, 1865. The American period spans from the founding of the United States to the end of the Civil War, so marked by the significant political, ideal, social, and cultural developments. So early American literature during this period often focused on the exploration of national identity and the frontier experience and the search for a distinctive American literature voice. So Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and James Fenimore Cooper's The Last of the Mohicans are examples of literature from this period that celebrated the American landscape and mythology while grappling with questions of identity and belonging. So contemporary period made 20th century at present, the contemporary period in American literature encompasses the mid-20th century to the present day and is characterized by a diverse range of voices, styles, and themes. This period has seen the rise of postmodernism, multiculturalism, and various social and political movements that have influenced the literary landscape. Writers such as Toni Morrison, J.D. Salinger, and Allen Ginsberg have contributed to the literary canon with works that reflect the complexities of modern life that grapple with issues of identity, alienation, and globalization. The contemporary period has also witnessed the proliferation of new literary forms and technologies, from experimental fiction to digital storytelling, challenging traditional notions of authorship and readership. Social and cultural developments influencing literature throughout both periods. Literature has been deeply influenced by social and cultural developments reflecting the values, beliefs, and struggles of American society. In the American Republic period, literature often grappled with questions of national identity, democracy, the frontier experience, mirroring the nation's expansions, and ideological conflicts. In contrast, the contemporary period has seen literature engage with issues such as globalization, identity politics, and the impact of technology on human relationship. Writers have responded to changing social norms and cultural paradigms, offering nuanced perspective on issues of race, gender, sexuality, and class, and challenging readers to confront their own assumptions and biases. Overall, literature continues to serve as a mirror to society, reflecting the complexities and contradictions the human experience across time and place. So now let's proceed to the first one, the founding ideals, no? So during the American Republic contemporary period. So the literature of this period reflects ideals of American Revolution such as liberty, democracy, and individualism. So authors like Washington Irving and James Fenimore Cooper explored themes of national identity and the American landscape in their works. So, frontier mythology. In the frontier mythology, writers often romanticize the frontier experience, portraying it as a symbol of freedom and opportunity. Works like Cooper's The Last of the Mohicans and Irving's Rip Van Winkle celebrated the rugged individualism and pioneer spirit of early America. So social commentary, it is a literature of the period address pressing social issues including slavery, women's rights, and westward expansion. And next is the Harry Beecher Stowe's or Uncle Tom's Cabin and Frederick Douglass autobiographical narratives challenged the institution of slavery and advocated for social reform and rise of the novel. The American Republic period witnessed the rise of the novel as a dominant literary form with authors like Nathaniel Hawthorne and Herman Melville contributing to the development of American literature. So also have the Hawthorne's exploration of guilt, it is and morality in the Scarlet Letter and Melville's examination of human nature and obsession in Moby Dick exemplify the literary achievements of the period. So in contemporary period in the mid 20th century at present, no, diversity and multiculturalism, the contemporary period has seen as an explosion of diverse voices and perspective in American literature, reflecting the country's changing demographics and cultural landscape. Writers like Toni Morrison, Sandra Cisneros, and Jonah Diaz has explored themes of race, ethnicity, and identity in their works. So it is a challenging traditional literary norms and expanding the canon. So postmodernism and fragmentation. So postmodernism has influenced contemporary literature, leading to experimentation with narrative form, language, and metafictional techniques. Authors like Thomas Pynchon, Don DeLeo, and other Foster Wallace have pushed the boundaries of storytelling, creating complex narratives that reflect the fragment nature of modern life.
Hello and good day. I am Dan Anthony Tatoy and I am responsible to discuss regionalism and cultural independence, as well as realism and industrialism during late periods in American literature. So let's start with the definition and characteristic of regionalism in American literature. Regionalism 1860 to 1930. As a literary category, regionalism originates in the post-Civil War era, but many critics locate its origin in the antebellum period. Regionalism emerges from the perception of modern geographic plurality. Writers and readers understand a larger unit of space, commonly the national territory, to be diversified at its periphery according to the topographical features, economy, history, dialect, and manners. In the late 19th century, the term got used interchangeably with local color, especially to designate stories set in relatively undeveloped areas like coastal New England, the South, the Midwest, and the California. Next is the characteristic of regionalism. In American literature, regionalism has been associated with the sketch or short story, although the category can accommodate poetry and the novel. So regionalism refers to the texts that concentrate heavily on specific, unique features of a certain region, including their dialect, customs, tradition, topography, history, and characters. These are all have a different impact on every literature. Also, it focuses on the formal and informal. So, analyzing the attitudes the characters have towards one another and their community as a whole. Next is the cultural independence. So, the cultural independence describe with or associate with the abbreviation word brave. B for behaviors, R for relationships, A for attitudes, and B for values, and E the environment. So, cultural independence. So, cultural independence proved to be the hardest area for Americans to break free from European models and standards. So, American intellectuals and artists recognized the need for American cultural independence, especially in the field of literature. So, in 1780s, Noah Webster declared that America must be as independent in literature as she is in politics. So the first and remaining spelling book is the Webster Dictionary, and it remains a mainstay of American bookshelves. So American cultural innovation was both original and thoughtful during the early republic and early national periods. Next, the exploration of regional identities in literature. So let's begin with regionalism. So Sarah Orney Jewett. Sarah Orney Jewett is a New England regionalist best known for The Country of the Pointed Fears. The Country of Pointed Fears 1896 is a collection of related stories of life in rural Maine, told through the perspective of a summer visitor. The book offers a striking portrait of a strong female community. Next is Charles Chestnut. So, the first American fiction writer to be published in the prestigious Atlantic Monthly, wrote regionalist fiction about the South. Next is the Kate Chapin. Wrote regionalist fiction often set in New Orleans or rural Louisiana. So most famous novels, The Awakening, 1899, and it reflects her interest in the way women's sexual desires came into conflict with social expectation. So next, let's move on to cultural independence. So the first American writer to receive both popular and lasting acclaim was the New Yorker Washington Irving, and one of his greatest work is the R.I.V. Van Winkle, and then Headless Horseman. Okay, let's move on to the realism and industrialization during late periods in American literature. So, realism 1860 to 1930. In American literature, the term realism encompasses the period of time from the Civil War to the turn of the century. So, broadly defined as the faithful representation of reality or verisimilitude. Realism is a literary technique practiced by many schools of writing. So, the characteristics of realism. So, realism renders reality closely and incomprehensive detail. Character is more important than action and plot. Complex ethical choices are often the subject, and then characters appears in the real complexity of temperament and motive. So let's move on to industrialization. So industrialization, writers use literature as a means of criticism. So in industrialization, most authors or writers used literature as their way of criticism. So literary writers of this area are mostly concerned about the social issues which rise as the impact of industrialization and urbanization. So industrial revolution has made thousands of people move from village to big cities to work in factories. So significant increase in literary rates and education. And then it includes essay, fiction, and poetry that respond to the enormous growth of technology as well as the labor and demographic changes it fostered. So the impact of industrialization on American literature. So Johannes Gutenberg during this period invented the first printing press in 1400s. So also during the industrialization, the multiply it multiplied the outputs and cut the cost of books. And then another impact of industrialization is cost to have greater quantities of information at lower cost. And then also the preservation of knowledge in standard form and spread new ideas quickly with greater impacts. So writers of industrial novels. So Elizabeth Gaskell, Mary Barton, and then Robert Owen, A New View of Society, and then Charles Dickens, Oliver Twist Hard Times, A Christmas Carol. And then two major goals of industrial novel or industrialization. The first one is to relate to the common working class because as we all know, the literature and works are all accessible only for the elites. So the major goal of industrialization, especially in literature, is to relate to the common working class. Also, the second one is to draw attention to the atrocious working condition that existed in mills and factories. So this is the very main issue during the industrialization period in later periods in American literature. And that would be my part for this group discussion. Thank you.